Women will almost never say it out loud when a man becomes impossible to replace. Not because they're hiding it from you, but because they're hiding it from themselves. You see it in what they do, not in what they say. She walks away, yet somehow she never fully disappears. She dates someone new, posts a new life, tells herself she's moved on. And still, something keeps pulling her back to the same man. Have you ever noticed that? A woman who left, but never truly detached. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. It's not love. It's not nostalgia. And it's not unfinished business. It's because at some point, you left a mark her biology couldn't erase. And once that happens, replacement becomes a lie she keeps telling herself. This video isn't here to flatter you, or to sell you fantasies about being the one. It's here to show you something far more important. How to recognize when you actually hold power in a woman's mind, and when you're quietly losing it. The 9 signs you're about to hear aren't theories. They're involuntary reactions, things women do without realizing it. If you want to understand women beyond their words, hit like, subscribe, and let's break this down, calmly, clearly, and without illusions. Number 1. She competes for you. When a woman truly sees you as irreplaceable, something subtle but unmistakable happens. She stops sharing you, even if there's no official label. Not because she's trying to control you, not because she's insecure, but because, on a deeper level, she has already decided that you are a resource worth protecting. This is where most men get it wrong. They confuse instinctive competition with jealousy. They assume a woman stepping closer, touching their arm in public, or inserting herself into a conversation is a sign of weakness. It isn't. It's biology responding to perceived value. When a man's presence stands out, calm, grounded, self-directed, her nervous system registers him as scarce. And when something feels scarce, the brain shifts into protection mode. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't plan it. Her body simply moves before her mind catches up. You'll notice it in small, almost dismissible moments. Another woman enters the space, and suddenly she's closer to you than before. Her hand rests on your back a second longer. She reclaims your attention without saying a word. Not aggressively, not dramatically, quietly, naturally. This isn't about ownership. It's about fear of loss. Women don't compete for men they can easily replace. They don't guard men they don't value. Competition only shows up when her subconscious senses that losing you would mean losing something she cannot recreate on demand. And here's the part most men miss. You don't need to encourage this behavior for it to exist. In fact, the more you chase reassurance, the faster it disappears. The men women compete for never ask to be chosen. They behave as if their place is already established. That's the truth most people won't tell you. A woman only starts competing when she feels you slipping out of the category of option and into the category of loss. That's not romance, that's instinct. Number 2, she brings up the past. When a woman can't replace you, the past doesn't stay where it belongs. It resurfaces, not because she's sentimental, but because her brain stored you as an emotional landmark. Women don't remember moments the way men do. They remember states, how they felt in your presence, who they became around you. That's why it's never the big events that come back first. It's the small, almost meaningless details. A joke only the two of you shared. The way you ordered your coffee. A street you walked down once without thinking much of it. Those memories are emotionally charged, so they don't fade quietly. They float back up when her guard is down. Here's what most men misunderstand. When she brings up the past, she isn't reminiscing for comfort. She's checking for continuity. She's probing to see whether the connection still exists on your side, or if she's the only one still carrying it. That random message months later. The photo with no explanation. The "remember when" dropped casually into conversation. None of it is accidental. Her nervous system links you to a specific emotional rhythm. And once that rhythm has been established, time doesn't dissolve it. Distance doesn't erase it. New men don't overwrite it. The memory stays active because it's tied to how safe, alive, or grounded she felt in your presence. And here's the uncomfortable part for her. Every time she brings it up, she's exposing that you still occupy space in her inner world, even if she tells herself she's moved on. You don't need to respond enthusiastically. You don't need to dig deeper. The power isn't in reliving the past. It's in recognizing why she keeps reopening it. Because women don't revisit memories that don't matter. They revisit the ones that still have a pulse. Number 3. She struggles to replace you. A woman can have options and still feel stuck. That's the part most men don't understand. Attention is easy. Validation is everywhere. But replacement is rare, because replacement isn't about availability. It's about whether her body recognizes the same balance again. Most men only give a woman half of what she responds to. One makes her feel safe, predictable, comfortable, but flat. Another excites her, keeps her guessing, but never feels stable enough to trust. Her nervous system is constantly choosing between security and stimulation. When a man gives her both, something locks in. That combination doesn't just impress her mind, it calibrates her body. Her system learns this is the standard. And once that standard is set, everything else feels like a downgrade, even if she refuses to admit it. That's why more options doesn't fix the problem. New men might look better on paper. They might be more attentive, more available, even more eager. But her body doesn't respond the same way. The chemistry feels forced. The rhythm is off. She can't relax into it. So she starts circling back. Not always directly, not always consciously. She watches your stories. She reacts faster than she means to. She remembers dates that no longer matter on the surface. From the outside, it looks random. From the inside, it's frustration. Her body keeps searching for a familiar signal it hasn't found anywhere else. Here's the truth most men need to hear. She's not missing you as a person. She's missing the internal state she experienced with you. The grounded calm, the pull, the way her system could settle and ignite at the same time. And that's what makes replacement so difficult. Because you weren't just a man in her life. You were a pattern her body learned to depend on. Once that pattern is gone, everything else feels like an imitation. Number 4. Her body reacts to you like a drug. One of the clearest signs you've left a lasting imprint on a woman has nothing to do with what she says, and everything to do with how her body responds when you're near. She could be stressed, irritated, emotionally charged. But the moment you enter her space, something shifts. That shift isn't emotional. It's biological. When a woman experiences deep attraction with a man who leads calmly and confidently, her body learns to associate him with regulation. Not chaos, not volatility, regulation. During intimacy, she lets go of control and follows his pace, physically and emotionally. Her breathing sinks, her tension drops, her nervous system hands over the reins, and once the body learns that response, it doesn't forget it. So later, outside of any intimate context, her system reacts the same way. Your presence alone cues a familiar state. Her shoulders lower, her voice softens. Her agitation fades faster than it should. Not because she decided to calm down, but because her body already knows what happens when you're steady. This is where the difference between men becomes obvious. An unstable man gets pulled into her emotional storms. He mirrors her chaos, tries to fix it, or escalates with her. A grounded man doesn't move. He stays anchored, and that stillness becomes the dominant rhythm. Picture an argument. Her voice is sharp. Her emotions are high. Most men either defend themselves or shut down. You don't. You stay composed. Your tone stays low. You slow the moment down instead of feeding it. And suddenly, she follows. Not because you won the argument, but because her body recognized a familiar authority. The same authority it once trusted enough to let go with. the same presence that made her feel contained instead of overwhelmed. That's the part no one explains. Your stability doesn't just influence her mood, it resets it. And once her body associates you with that reset, it keeps responding, long after the moment has passed. Number 5. She tests you on purpose. If a woman truly doesn't care about losing you, she won't test you. Indifference doesn't probe, it doesn't poke, it doesn't try to provoke a reaction. Testing only appears when something valuable is on the line. This is where many men misread the situation. They assume tests mean trouble, disrespect, or emotional games. In reality, tests are a form of verification. She's checking whether the man she felt anchored to is still there, or if he's starting to slip into reactivity and neediness like everyone else. The tests come in different forms. She casually mentions another man. She questions your tone. She creates tension where none is necessary. She pushes just enough to see if you wobble. Most men fail right here. They explain. They defend. They compete with a man who isn't even present. And the moment they do, something collapses. Not because they were wrong, but because they signaled instability. They showed her that her emotions can move them. But a man who remains centered doesn't take the bait. He doesn't rush to correct her perception. He doesn't chase reassurance. He doesn't argue to restore his position. He responds slowly, calmly, with restraint. That restraint is what her body notices, because it mirrors the same control she once responded to instinctively, the same sense of containment that made her feel safe enough to let go. Imagine she brings up an attractive coworker just to see what happens. Most men stiffen. You don't. You look at her steadily and say, calmly, that you don't compete for attention. Then you move on, without irritation, without explanation. In that moment, the test ends. Not because you dominated her verbally, but because you didn't abandon your center. Here's the truth that changes everything. Women don't test men they want to discard. They test the men who set the bar. Every test is her way of confirming that the man she bonded to hasn't disappeared under pressure. And the man who passes isn't the one who reacts best. It's the one who barely reacts at all. Number 6. She mirrors you. When a man is forgettable, a woman moves on cleanly. The chapter closes. The influence ends. But when a man leaves a real imprint, something different happens. She doesn't just remember him. She starts absorbing him. This isn't imitation for approval. It's not strategy. It's unconscious alignment. Her nervous system has already labeled you as significant, so it begins pulling pieces of you inward. Your words, your rhythms, your preferences. Over time, they quietly show up as her own. She uses your phrases without noticing. She develops a taste for things she never cared about before. Her style shifts slightly, just enough to reflect the atmosphere she felt around you. Psychologically, this happens when someone internalizes value. When a man represents a higher standard in her internal hierarchy, her mind doesn't resist his influence. It integrates it. You'll notice it in moments that feel almost strange. She describes something using a word you always used. She orders the drink you introduced her to. She adopts opinions she once brushed off. And when you point it out, she'll often deny it. Not because it isn't happening, but because she's unaware of it. This is how deep influence works. It doesn't announce itself. It settles in. Men who try to force this kind of effect never achieve it. Mirroring only happens when attraction has moved beyond surface-level desire and into internal alignment. Her system is saying, this feels right. Keep more of it. And here's why this matters. People don't absorb what they plan to discard. They don't integrate what they see as temporary. Mirroring is a sign that, on some level, she adjusted herself around you, and part of her hasn't adjusted back. That's the difference between being memorable and being formative. You weren't just someone she dated. You were someone who shifted how she moves through the world. Number 7. She shows you her dark side. There's a version of a woman that most men never meet, not because she's hiding it maliciously, but because it only emerges when she feels psychologically safe. Truly safe. Not comforted. Not reassured. Contained. When a woman sees you as irreplaceable, the mask starts to slip. She stops presenting the polished version her friends see, the agreeable version her family knows, or the edited version she uses with men she doesn't fully trust. With you, she lets something deeper surface. Her fears, her contradictions, her thoughts she knows would overwhelm weaker men. This isn't about shock value. It's about trust at a level most men never reach. She senses that you won't flinch, won't judge, and won't collapse under the weight of her truth. So she reveals more, not to test you, but because her nervous system feels unguarded around you. Here's where many men ruin it. They try to fix her. They react emotionally. They show discomfort, curiosity mixed with insecurity, or subtle judgment they don't realize they're expressing. And the moment that happens, the door closes. But when you remain steady, calm, present, unthreatened, something irreversible occurs. She registers that you can hold all of her without destabilizing yourself. That your sense of self doesn't depend on her being easy, pleasant, or predictable. That's when she relaxes further. This level of openness creates a bond that can't be replicated casually. Because once she has shown you the parts she hides from the world, she can't unshow them. She can't go back to being surface level with you. The connection has crossed a psychological threshold. And that's the truth most men never hear. When a woman exposes this side of herself to you, you stop being interchangeable. Other men may get her time. Some may get her attention. But very few ever get her unfiltered self. Once that line is crossed, replacement becomes complicated because she knows exactly what she'd be giving up. Number 8. Her body responds before her mind. When a woman has truly bonded with you, her body exposes the truth long before her words ever do. She doesn't plan it. She doesn't even notice it happening. But if you're paying attention, it's unmistakable. Her posture shifts when you enter the room. Her voice softens without intention. Her eyes linger a second longer than they should. These reactions aren't conscious choices. They're reflexes. Here's why that matters. During intense attraction, a woman's body links specific chemical states, calm, excitement, surrender, to one source. Over time, her nervous system learns that you are the trigger. So when she sees you again, the response activates automatically before logic has time to intervene. That's why even when she's trying to appear indifferent, her body betrays her. She leans toward you while talking to someone else. Her tone lowers when she answers you. Her movements slow down in your presence. These are not rehearsed signals. They're conditioned responses. Most men look for verbal confirmation and miss what's happening right in front of them. But the body doesn't lie. It follows what it remembers as safe and stimulating. Picture this. You walk into a space and say nothing. She continues her conversation, keeps her expression neutral, but her shoulders angle toward you. Her voice drops half an octave. Her attention fractures in your direction without permission. That's not attraction resurfacing. That's attraction never leaving. When a woman's body reacts like this, it's because the association has already been made and reinforced. No amount of rational thinking on her part can fully shut it down. Her system recognizes you before her mind has time to decide how she's supposed to feel. And that's the confirmation most men overlook. When the body has already chosen, words become secondary. Explanations don't matter. Distance doesn't fully work. Because once her body remembers you, it responds on instinct. Every time. Number 9. She admits no one measures up. Sometimes the clearest confirmation doesn't come from behavior or body language. It slips out of her mouth, unplanned, unguarded, and almost always understated. She won't announce it dramatically. She won't frame it as a confession. It comes out sideways. It just wasn't the same. I've never met anyone like you. I don't usually do this with anyone else. To her, these sound like casual remarks. To a man who understands psychology, they're everything. What she's really saying is that you reset her internal scale. Every man who came after you was compared against a standard she didn't consciously choose, but couldn't undo. And none of them cleared it. Pay attention to the structure of these statements. They're rarely compliments. They're contrasts. She references someone else only to highlight the gap. An ex who was nice, but a date who looked good on paper, but felt empty. She trails off because the conclusion is obvious. They weren't you. Here's why this matters. Women don't break their own rules casually. They don't violate their standards unless something overrides them. When she admits she acted differently with you, opened faster, trusted deeper, crossed boundaries she once enforced, it means your presence outweighed her self-imposed limits. That's not impulsiveness. That's hierarchy. In her internal world, you didn't compete with other men. You displaced them. You became the reference point, the comparison class. Everyone else entered already behind. And notice this, she doesn't say these things to pull you back. She says them because her system recognizes truth before strategy. The admission escapes when her guard drops, during reflection, vulnerability, or honesty she didn't plan to offer. This is the final sign because it closes the loop. Her actions hinted at it. Her body confirmed it. And now her words, even reluctantly, align with what's already been true. At that point, you don't need reassurance. You don't need clarity. You don't need to ask where you stand. Because when a woman admits no one measures up, she's telling you something permanent. You're no longer an option in her story. You're the benchmark it revolves around. When you step back and look at all 9 signs together, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. None of them are about romance. None of them are about promises, labels, or words said in the heat of a moment. They're about something far more permanent. They're about imprint. When a woman can't replace you, it shows up everywhere. In how she guards you without announcing it. In how the past refuses to stay buried. In how no new man ever quite fits the space you left behind. In how her body settles when you're steady. Tests you when she cares. Mirrors you when your influence runs deep. And exposes parts of herself she never shows lightly. This isn't about being chased. It's about being anchored. And here's the truth most men never confront. Once a woman has bonded to you at this level, you don't need to ask where you stand. You don't need reassurance. You don't need to negotiate your value. Her behavior already answered the question. But there's a warning embedded in all of this. This kind of position only exists as long as you hold your center. The moment you start reacting, chasing, explaining, or seeking validation, the balance shifts. Not because she stopped feeling it, but because you stopped embodying it. Power like this isn't maintained through effort. It's maintained through restraint. So if you recognized yourself in these signs, understand what that means. You were never interchangeable. You were never just another option. But that status is something you protect through how you move, how you respond, and how little you need from anyone else to feel solid. If this breakdown clarified things for you, subscribe to stay sharp. Hit like if this put words to something you've experienced but never fully understood. And if you've seen these signs play out in your own life, leave a comment. Not for validation, but as a statement of awareness.